Hi, my name is Olivia Garrison and I own the Olive Branch Herbal Medicine. Many of you will recognize me from having taken my classes, and many of you will be new to understanding what I teach. Today I wanted to do this video, which is very unusual for me. I don't do videos, but I felt it was really important for people to start thinking about the 6 different important aspects of survival. One is going to be water, another is going to be food, of course shelter, heating, medicinal, and protection. Today I'm just going to touch on water. Water is going to be the most vital. You can only survive up to 3 days without taking or having water on a regular basis. You can actually survive for a very long time without food. So water is going to be vitally important. We have seen so much in this country in the last few months since January of train derailments, of chemical pollutants. Just take East Palestine, Ohio as an example. My heart goes out to you. I'm really concerned about your welfare. And because of the chemical spills, so much of the water is going to be contaminated. So today we're going to talk about how to purify your water so that you can use it and drink it and be safe. There are 2 different methods that are advised or recommended. One is reverse osmosis and the other is water distillation. As an individual that teaches emergency preparedness, I prefer to teach water distillation. And why would I do that? It's because I don't have to have water filters. I don't have to have the equipment on a regular basis to filter out the water or to create a pressure to be able to filter reverse osmosis. Once you have your water distiller created and you can just set it aside, it's ready for you to use at any time. So let's talk about water distillation and what it is. This right here is an example of my very first water distillation system that I made probably 15-20 years ago, and I have since updated it. I have created a instructional paper that teaches you how to make this water distillation system. It's always been free, and I have thousands of the instructions that have been sent around the world that are being utilized on a regular basis. You will find that the majority of everything that I do, my knowledge is free, except for my 2-day classes. Those I charge for. So let's talk about water distillation, and next we're going to talk about the equipment you're going to need in order to make a modern water distillation. Thanks. So why water distillation? When you have radioactive isotopes, where do they come from? They come from uranium. Water distillation is a very popular way and is still used throughout the world as the only means to be able to distill out uranium. That means your radioactive isotopes. So it's really important because it will also distill out your VOCs, your volatile organic compounds. Most of your volatile organic compounds will dissipate even in room temperature because they have such a low boiling point compared to water. And so what happens is you have your volatile organic compounds. If you are in the winter, you're going to want to make sure that your water heats up without the lid being on to begin with. So when you have your water filled up, you're just going to go ahead and let the water get to a point where it's almost boiling, because at that point all of your VOCs have dispersed, and that includes things like dioxin, which we know is very deadly. That's a chemical compound that is found in Agent Orange. Your other items, such as your regular organic compounds, like your heavy metals, your aluminums, etc., they're too heavy to be able to go up through the water distillation system, and so they'll fall right back down into your pot, and that's what you will end up having left over when you're done distilling your water. Let's talk a little bit about the difference between micron and macron. A micron obviously is much smaller. That's going to be like your viruses, but you also have macrons, which are like your bacteria. There's a lot of water filtration systems that are on the market that, if you're not careful, you're going to be getting a macron filter, which does not actually distill out some of the smaller bacteria that is produced out in nature. I called a very popular water filtration system company one time that's out there. It sits on your countertop and has this filter, and was able to ask the questions regarding is it a micron or a macron filter, because this company professed to distill out or filter out 99.9% of bacteria and viruses, when in reality they had a macron filter. And they actually admitted that there's one virus that filters out, and it's because that particular virus happens to be the size of the smallest bacteria. So in response to that, they basically are lying to the people. This very popular water filtration system that they have does not do what it is purported to do. And it certainly does not filter out things like uranium. Water distillation or reverse osmosis are the only way that you can actually filter out uranium or your radioactive isotopes. So make sure of how you are filtering your water, and is it doing the job that you need it to do. Go for the biggest gusto that you can. If you want to filter everything out, then water distillation is the way to do it. Get the best way to do it instead of wasting your money building up to that point. The other thing that people have commented on is the fact that water distillation does filter out your minerals, ones that your body requires. But guess what? A handful of something like stinging nettle is going to give you back the minerals that you need. Natural ways of being able to eat your herbal plants that are out there give you what you need already. So filtering out the minerals from water distillation is not going to damage you in the least if you are eating correctly at the same time. All right, so let's get to the point where we are going to be making the water distiller. This is Kevin. I don't know if you can see there's his face. Yes, he's tall. He is the husband of Kara. Many of you have met Kara. So Kara, come on over and say hi. You will see Kara with me an awful lot. These guys have a YouTube channel. Tell us what your YouTube channel is.
We're Getaway Woods Homestead.
Okay, so, and I will not do YouTube. So anything that I do that I'm going to make a video, you will find those videos on their YouTube site. Kara is part of the Olive Branch Herbal Medicine, and so this message is approved by me. Okay, yeah, we goof around a lot. So let's get to building the water distiller. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about the equipment. We're going to start with the larger pieces of equipment. The easiest is just to get a nice, either used or brand new pressure canner. There's going to be different kinds. I don't recommend the American because of all the gadgets that it has on the lid itself. So you're going to want to have, these are Prestos. And so these are ones that I like to use. Yes, they're aluminum. Don't worry about the fact that they're aluminum. All that will be taken care of through the distillation process. This one here has just the jiggle on the very center. If I can find one that has just the jiggle, then that's the one that I'm going to use. Doesn't mean that the others won't work. There's a variety of different types of canners you can use. You want to make sure that the rubber gasket on the inside is not cracked. That is going to be good. You can replace that if you buy your pressure canner at a yard sale, which I do frequently. I happen to find both of these canners at a yard sale, brand new, still in the box. And these normally run, I think, out on Amazon for like $139. I got these for $30 each, which is phenomenal. So with just the jiggle on the front, it makes life a lot easier creating this. Now this one over here is also a Presto, but you'll notice that it's got the jiggle and then it's got a hole in the lid itself, and that's because this is brand new and I did not put the pressure gauge in the center. And I'm not going to do that until we get this made, just because I'm too lazy to go find it and put it in there right now. So this is the jiggle, and you're going to want to take the jiggle off. This would be a nut that would be on the other side. You're going to loosen that off, you're going to take that down, take it off. And then this is the area where we're going to go ahead and drill our hole to be able to match our compression fittings that we're going to be using. So what's nice is people are concerned about the pressure building up in these canners. Well, once you have the copper tubing and the compression fitting in the pressure canner lid, that pressure is going to come up through the copper. And if there's too much, you still have the overpressure, what What are those called, guys?
Release
valve. Thank you. Now you got to see, to begin with, my very first water distiller that I made. This is a Miramatic. Pretty easy to do. This one here is going to be a little bit different on the back side. Instead of having a compression fitting, it's got a bolt on it, a nut on it, and it's actually been wonderful. This copper tubing is just a little bit different. This is a refrigerated copper tubing. It's a 1/4 inch. Since then I have made many of these, and I've decided that the 3/8 inch copper is actually better to be able to use. I don't use stainless steel because copper is a much better conductor for heat. Okay, so let's talk about the buckets. You're going to need to have a 5-gallon bucket. Obviously you can go ahead and have a much bigger bucket if you want to. This is just a quick design for people that are going to have just one simple one. You can go ahead and get like the big totes, the big 150-gallon totes, and actually have the water distill into those if you're going to want to create much larger quantities of water. I brought this square one today simply because I wanted to show you, you can use this, but because it's narrower on the bottom compared to the top, your copper tubing is going to have to be delicately spun in this square. You're not going to make it square, you're going to make it round, and you'll see what I'm talking about later. So really what you want is you want a 5-gallon round bucket because it's equal and even all the way up, and it makes it a lot easier to deal with the copper tubing that you're going to be working with. I think that's all we need to talk about regarding the bigger pieces of equipment. Let's go on to the smaller pieces. Let's talk about some of the other pieces that you're going to need. None of these are actually very expensive. This is a very inexpensive water distiller to be able to make. You're going to need to have a 3/8 inch compression fitting. It's important that you have this compression fitting because this is going to go through the lid of the pressure canner. And if you take a look, you'll see that on each side of the compression fitting, there's a little bladder on the inside. So be careful when you open that up. You don't want to lose those puppies. Believe me, I've lost plenty of them. Okay, so the other thing that I'm going to be doing with the water distiller that I'm making today is I'm actually going to be putting a valve on the release of where the water comes out of the bucket. This allows me to be able to move the entire water distiller. These are the rubber grommets. These are the 3/8 inch rubber grommets. These are important to make sure that you get the right size because the copper tubing that you're going to have is 3/8 inch. Drill bit, and the black oxide drill bit is a great way to go. You can use whatever drill bit is most comfortable for you. The 3/8 inch compression and rubber grommet, you'll see that I put one on the copper tubing itself. So you need to make sure that this has a 3/8 inch internal diameter, not external. In other words, it'll be way too big. This is a copper brass craft cutter. This is what I use to cut. If you come across an end of your copper for like this section here, this is really rough. See how rough that is? And so that's not going to go into your compression fitting nor into your grommets. So this little device here is fabulous for being able to cut the ends off and making it nice and smooth so it'll fit really well. So let's talk about the copper tubing itself. This is really soft. Copper can be extremely soft. This is a 3/8 inch and it's rolled this way, and you have to be really careful because you can literally kink your copper really easily. So be very careful when you're working with your copper. So I think that is pretty much everything as far as the equipment. You notice that there's not a lot of equipment that's really needed between the pressure canner and all of the pieces here. I think I probably spent about $35 or $45 worth, maybe 50, but $50 worth to make a water distillation system that's going to give you fresh water and keep chemicals out of your system. I think it's worth it. Okay, so if you go to my Facebook page, which is called TFY-Think for Yourself, then you will find these instructions on the folder section of the Facebook page. They're free, just download them and go to town with it. And use this video to help you as you're going through the instructions with that, okay? So one more thing about the bucket, I really want you to understand. You notice that this bucket here is not clean. It makes absolutely no difference. You do not have to clean this bucket because the copper tubing is going to actually be wound inside the bucket. The water will be purified in the copper tubing. Inside the bucket itself, you are going to put in whatever liquid you have. It can be swamp liquid, it can be snow, it can be some of the nastiest mud puddle liquid. It's not going to make any difference because all it's going to need to do is cool down the copper piping, copper as it's going down inside, because then what that's going to help to do is turn your steam back into the water molecules, which then the pure fresh water will come out of the copper tubing out of your bucket. So don't worry if you have a nasty looking bucket like this. If you want to clean it, go for it. It's going to get nasty looking again unless you always use really good water, which at this point here I can tell you from information that from different third world countries where my instructions have gone and people have built them, they use some of the nastiest water because they're purifying that nasty water in order to be able to drink it, whether it's because of mudslides or power losses, whatever the case may be. There's been a number of different reasons why they've made these over in third world countries and use them regularly to purify their water.
Okay, I'm the guinea pig. So we're going to take Olivia's instructions here on how to make your homemade water distiller. And I'm going to try to follow these. I've never done one of these before, so let's see if it works. So looking through instructions, I have this Pick B style of Presto home canner. I've got the items I will need. So let's go on to page 2. Okay. So you have to drill a hole to match a 3/8 inch opening if you're using Pick B. Leave pressure gauge, the center one's for the pressure gauge. Drill the vent port that the weight gauge sits on, so that'll be this one right here. So we'll have to drill that out. Luckily I have my drill here. Yep, battery's good. So there's already a hole here. Let's see if we can't just there we go. Take our file and clean up the hole. That piece is done. There we go. I think close enough for government work. Preparing a 5-gallon bucket. Okay, so we need to get a 3/8 inch hole on the side of the bucket. We'll do it right about in the middle of the bale. That seems like a good place. Fill the 1/2 inch bit. So this hole is made about 2 inches up from the bottom. Just enough so we can grab our grommet here and slide it in. Just work it around till it fits even on both sides. Yep. There, that looks even. That one's out of the way. Got to keep checking, and then now the copper tubing will fit correctly through the grommet. Pro tip.
If you have a round container that would fit right in here, then you could take your copper tubing and actually wrap it around that round container and then just slide it off of it, and that copper tubing should slide right inside the bucket.
So, sitting a little tight, kept popping the grommet out, so we took a little Vaseline, lubed it up, and it went through pretty easy. You want the tight fit though, because this is to keep the water, the dirty water that's cooling off from steam, you want to prevent it from coming out. This is going to be the crimp for your tubing, so it's going to keep your tubing from sliding out. There's one on each side, but the tube is only going to fit into the centerpiece here. It's not going to go all the way through, so we only have to worry about the one side. Oh, might have to file a little bit more. It's a little tight fit. Oh, I'm just cutting the end off here because it got smashed on this side, so, and it's kind of flattened out a little bit, so I'm going to the end of that and making a new cut, so it'll be nice and clean to fit in to the fittings. Close enough for government work.
Absolutely.
That's my specialty, government work.
Government work.
There we go. It's not looking pretty, but it is functional. So, and then we got the top through this hole to hold the whole coil down. It works in theory. And with this setup, see, we got the 9/16 on the small side, the bottom to hold, and then 5/8 on top to tighten it. You want to tighten it down tight, but you don't want to go too tight to crush the tube. Just going to want to make sure that you have it tight enough to crush that, so that tube is not going anywhere. So there we go. Then, let's see if we can go open, close. So, there we go. That's roughly how it's going to look. And then our last piece, we'll switch places here. Is going to throw a little shut-off valve on the end here. So for this spigot here, we have the same concept here. Thread this on. Flat side goes towards the bucket. Then we're gonna put on the little crimp, and then this feeds on, and then you just screw this in. And let's see, that was the other side. There we go. And then you're going to stick another tubing over here to finish this off, or you can just unscrew it. And there you go. When the knob is in line with the tube, it's on. When you turn it this way, where it's crossways against the tube, that's off.